Hello world, my name is Dad, Mighty Mike, and on this episode of the podcast, we are going to discuss how to start a fitness business. Today's guest is Steve Hicks. Steve is an anti-fitness coach. He's a rebel by heart, and that's part of his brand. Steve is a fitness expert and best personal fitness coach in Spokane 2023. We cover a series of health business topics that you never considered. I am highly confident at the end of this period of instruction, you will be able to take what you have learned and lose a bunch of weight while growing your brand. And that's called value. And because of that, you should like this video and Steve's videos. Remember that sharing is caring. Subscribing today shows your commitment to lose weight, and by smashing the bell means that you are taking steps to improve your life. But let's talk about who's been losing weight and who's been packing on the pounds ever since Mr. Pease came out with his new candy bars. Hershey's has lost some fat. But as these two confectioners battle it out, guess who wins? Walmart, ticker symbol WMD. Walmart is the most massive logistics system on the planet, and they want you to know it. They pay their truckers $110,000 a year, and they mean serious business. Walmart truckers go directly to the manufacturer and grab the product, saving you fatty greenbacks, while growing their shares of stock year over year with a decent dividend. Walmart, ticker symbol WMT. Tell the world about you.
What's up, everybody? I'm Steve Hicks. I am the anti-fitness guy. I offer solutions for weight loss and for health and wellness. And I'm excited to be here, share a little bit more about what anti-fitness means, some of my unique approaches to health and wellness, and hopefully at the end of the episode, someone gets something out of this and they can help kind of get more energy, more confidence, put their best foot forward.
Cool. How long you been an anti-fitness coach?
Oh, that's a great question. That's one I can answer easier. Everyone always asks how long I've been doing this, and it's been an evolution, so I never know how to answer that. But anti-fitness really started in strong late 2020. So I was telling you a little bit off camera. So I started personal training in 2010. But 2019, I found myself in a really interesting place. 2019, I was laying in the fetal position of the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Not the best place to lay in the fetal position if you can avoid it. But I had shattered my leg. I had a little accident in the hotel. I ended up having knee reconstruction surgery. I've got a steel rod in my left knee, 5 pins, 3 screws. Like most of my connective tissues either chewed up or non-existent now. And during the 4 months of bed rest, I had far too much time to reflect, what else are you going to do 4 months staring at a wall? But the fitness industry has this tendency to always try to push the body to the limits. And if you physically can't do that anymore, what is the point, right? Well, why even, do I go back to being a personal trainer? Do I even care about fitness anymore? And what ended up happening was I visited my brother, and when I was crutching into his house, his son, my nephew, Connor, got so excited, came screaming down the hall, "Uncle Steve-O!" Right, just excited, and my brother had to catch him and grab him and hold him back and say, "You can't play with Uncle. Uncle's hurt." And I don't know if you've ever had to tell a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old not to play. It's like the greatest human tragedy, right? And there was so much pain and devastation that I started to realize that for me, fitness wasn't this athletic pursuit. It wasn't this chasing the ego. It wasn't pushing the body to the limit. It gave me the ability to show up as who I wanted to be, how I wanted to be able to share myself with people how I wanted to. And it became really important for me to regain that physical ability to work on my fitness, not for the vanity, not for the showy abs, not for the looks and all that stuff that we used to do, but just to be able to do. Right? So that evolved, and then 2019, 2020 is really when I started to get into this anti-fitness. because the fitness industry is all about bodybuilding, all about sports. People come in, they say they want more energy, they want to feel great. We make them squat till they puke because that's what some bodybuilder did. You're not going to feel great in that situation. So, yeah, that was a lot of mouth vomit. I've been anti-fitness since about 2020.
Cool.
Yeah.
What happened that your knee got hurt?
Well, you know what they say, like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So,
Did you get in a fight?
no.
That'd be something cool.
I wish it was something cool. Since it was Vegas, we can make it cool. Do you want the adventure story or do you want the spicy story?
The one that is, well, if it's like I just fell down the stairs or something crazy, I don't know. What did you fall or?
Yeah, it was just a little fall thing. It really wasn't anything exciting.
Isn't it strange how something small like that?
Yeah,
will just
well,
mess up your life.
On the surface, it looks like a freak accident. Knowing what I know about the body, I mean, it was the end of a week-long trip to Vegas. Obviously, we weren't sleeping the best, so you're not recovering. You're not helping the body. If you have a step tracker and you're walking this strip, even as an active guy that tends to average 14,000 steps a day, we were tripling that walking up and down the strip. So my legs were under more stress. We were kind of poisoning ourselves all weekend, not eating the best with nutrition. So a lot of physical stress on the body, a lot of not taking care of the body. And then I had a little small freak accident at the end of the week. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. It looks like a fluke, but I can give you a few factors that contributed to it.
Well, I've known people who've blown their knees out just jumping over a fence.
Yeah, I jumped over a table.
Like, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, people don't take stretching serious. So how serious is stretching to you now?
Yeah, so stretching is one of those... I always try to give like a balanced fitness plan with my clients. And for me, that includes checking the box. That's a very important thing to say. I focus on checking the box on 3 components, right? You've got flexibility, strength, and aerobics. Traditionally, textbook right advice tries to tell what the right ratios are or what the right quantities are or where they are. But for me, honestly, it's just checking the box, meeting the body's needs, and then we flex the amount and adjust the ratios depending on personal preference and maybe goals, depending on how strong and specific your goal is. And so stretching is important. It is a component of fitness. It's a component of wellness that we absolutely want, along with along with strength and with aerobics. I probably don't stretch as much as people anticipate. I'm very deliberate about getting some dynamic stretches in as my warm-ups before workouts, about 10 minutes to get most things covered. And then I will also do like a yoga routine once or twice a week. But I know there's a trend and a fad right now with like the stretch labs and mobility stuff. And a lot of people will take 20, 30, 40 minutes trying to stretch and get real in there. I've never been a big fan of stretching. And unless that's really like what you enjoy, if that's something that just strokes your ego and makes you feel great, then fantastic. But I've never been, for myself, a personal fan of stretching. So I just try to check the box. It is important, though, especially with the knee injury. I got to be aware if I'm not consistent with at least checking the box, it will stiffen up and it will kind of lose some range of motion, and I'm not okay with that. So I do check the box just to keep that.
Yeah, range of motion's important. Mm. Yeah, so talk about a week in the life of Steven.
Oh, man. That is... one of the perks of ADD brain is that things are never super stable. What does the week look like? That's always in flux. I was on the Fitness Business podcast a couple of months ago, and I was talking about one of my continual pursuits is how can I help more people and help people more. And that constant meditation, that constant reflection causes a lot of constant evolution, which if any of my clients are watching, I apologize. It's got to feel like whiplash once in a while when I change things up. But yeah, it's always changing. I will say there are some rocks that will fluctuate throughout the schedule. I tend to operate more off to-do lists than on schedules. But I've got a few networking events that I go to share the message, to connect with other people, and to create good referral partnerships where my clients can benefit from that as well. I have once a month I do workout creations for my clients. I update their workouts. It's usually on the first Wednesday of the month, where I'll spend the day just rewriting people's workouts, updating it based on preferences, based on the feedback they gave. And then there's some podcast creation. There's some blog writing. There's just one of my goals, personal goals, is to wake up excited and go to bed exhausted. And so even though that weeks can vary quite a bit, I think the overall thread is just wake up and try to help more people and help people more.
Wake up excited and go to bed exhausted. It sounds like a good thing.
Someone should put that on a shirt.
Strive for.
Yeah.
So how often are you going to the gym with the clients, and what gym do you go to?
Yeah, so I don't go to the gym. I have a garage gym that I use for my personal workouts, my personal fitness plans. I'm in there each morning, usually about 6 a.m. It's a great way to start the day. I feel great. It allows me to put my best foot forward. As far as clients, I actually run an online program. So this is one of the things that runs into that anti-fitness thing as well. It's very common for people to schedule sessions with a personal trainer, right? We don't actually have sessions where you do a guided workout. I will create a custom plan for you. You'll get access to the fitness app, which is going to have exercise demonstrations. It's going to allow you to track. It's going to show you your previous workout information so that you can set a micro goal of trying to get another rep or trying to add a couple more pounds to a couple exercises. But it's a lot more flexible and allows people to do things in their space on their own time, and it's more adaptable for clients' needs. One of the biggest obstacles I ran into when I was a traditional personal trainer in the gym was, as someone that's supposed to be helping create pathways to health and wellness, I created barriers with scheduling. Because as a personal trainer, you have like 5 sessions a day that you can fit, right? You got a couple in the morning, a few in the evening. You do have some in the middle of the day, but the prime times are before work and after work, right? I have ran into so many scenarios where, like, if my clients had to take care of their kids were sick in the morning, moms would call me and say, hey, I can't make it to the 7 a.m. workout. Can I come in after work at 6? No chance. Everyone and their dog wanted to work out at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Yep. So I would have to tell people no. And even though I would give them the workouts, the reality was they would be checking, and they just, if I wasn't there, they weren't there, yeah. Right? With the online platform, now if people need to schedule things or shift things around or trim something in half or split something into 2, they still have that. They have the keys to the kingdom on day 1. They have everything they need to be successful. And it also empowers you to be able to make that decision, make those adjustments. You are more self-sufficient and more self-reliant and more self-empowered with that online platform, which I really, really enjoy. It's taken away obstacles and it's created more flexibility.
Okay, so you have an app, mm-hmm. and your clients meet with you, or a virtual version of you, on this app, and they go through their own custom workout programs that you have created for them.
Yeah, that's one of the components of the coaching program. That's what everyone kind of anticipates when they sign up. They think because it's a fitness program, it's an anti-fitness fitness program, but they think that initially they're signing up for the custom plans, which are going to get updated each month. The real value in the coaching program, though, because it's an online platform, I'm able to deliver more things in a way that people are more receptive to. So one of the biggest problems with personal training is a lot of times people sign up for personal training and the only thing they lose is $500, right? Because workouts are great for your health. They're not that effective for weight loss. It's a dark reality in the industry. Most trainers will have enough presence to say that. And that's why we give lip service to nutrition, right? And if you want fat loss more than weight loss, then you have to have something to do with sleep as well. Your sleep has to be improved and you have to get sufficient amounts. And, when we also talk about weight management, there is that stress component because cortisol can be a fat hoarding hormone. There's so many more things in addition to exercise that people should be doing for their health. But when you're in a personal training session, when you're sucking wind from squats, I can't do anything about nutrition. Like I can try to explain to you the difference between simple carbs and complex carbs and fibers and starches. But when you're screaming at me over planks, you're not listening about carbs, right? So with the online program, there's an educational component, right? There's a platform with several short 5 to 10 minute lessons that take a holistic approach. There are 6 components of health that we coach in the program, not just exercise, not just nutrition, but we cover all 6 on the holistic wheel. And that education platform kind of helps redefine and makes it reasonable and realistic. That's the real value of the program, is that education component, knowing how to modify lifestyle factors, knowing what is your body's biological need for health, and then being able to discuss how do we adjust that for your own social situations? How do we adjust this for your family dynamics? How do we adjust this for your work obligations? And making it realistic and fit into people's routines. That's a big part of the coaching. The second big part of the coaching is going to be I've got a hybrid support system that combines the consistency and excitement of group support, and that accountability. You get daily accountability, but then I also provide on-demand one-on-one support too. So every day we do a little traffic light check-in with clients. Are you feeling green light? Are things all go? Yellow light? Are things kind of bumpy? Red light? Are you stopped? And if people are at red light, we give them an on-demand support call to talk about that situation, talk about adjustments, talk about strategies and reframes and how to get through that so that you can get back on the wagon and stay consistent. Lots of examples of crazy things that you wouldn't expect to come up in people's lives, but we'll skip over that today. Those 2 components, I think, are the real value. If you're just coming in for a workout plan, realistically, don't pay me. Don't pay me. Just Google a workout plan. They're mostly okay. Some of them are a little bit too ego-driven. Just Google an easy workout plan if you're trying to get started. Probably okay. The real thing, the thing that's life-changing and that keeps people consistent is the education portion and the support. And that's something that really only came along when I got into the online platform instead of being a traditional in-person trainer.
Cool. So it seems like you're being notified when somebody is feeling a certain way by the stoplight signal. You are then able to follow up with them with a call and see how they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's daily support and accountability in there, just because healthy habits are something that you're going to do every day, right? If you're alive, you're going to sleep at some point each day, we hope. So we might as well talk about it, right? You're going to eat food most days, every day. So we might as well talk about that. And that's something I like about the online platform is It's allowed me to make smaller touch points with people, but more regularly throughout the week, right? Personal training, you meet with a trainer once or twice a week. If you have any questions, any challenges, you have to wait a week until your next session. And then you forget what that was. You have no way to improve in the future. And you don't get to respond, right? You just have to wait for a week to talk to someone that you're spending $100 an hour with. It's not effective. And we see that in the data. We see that in the results. 85 to 95% of people that join a weight loss program regain it within 3 to 5 years. It's not working the way we've got it set up. So I'm excited to offer something different with the online program.
So talk about the app.
Yeah, so right now, until I can save up a few more pennies to streamline and consolidate, I'm working on 2 apps right now. One is strictly for communication. That's a third-party app called Band. It's a social media platform designed for like schools and sports teams and stuff. But we use that for communication. It's something that my clients use only for their coaching. So it doesn't get lost in their Facebook notifications, doesn't get lost in their text messages. It's just when they need fitness communications, they know where to find it, one spot. The second app that we use is a custom built app just for my clients, only available for my clients. It's an exclusive app, but it's got the nutrition resources built into it. And it also allows me to create custom workout plans that my clients can follow. Within that app, there are video demonstrations of every exercise that I recommend. And there's a place where you can log in your data, right? Your reps, your sets, the amount of weight that you use. You can log that data and then you can track it and see the progress over time. I also I did a little bit of an iceberg on this one. Everything I do has an iceberg. But on there, I really wanted to get something because I knew not being in person with people live while they're doing the workouts, there is slightly less rah-rah, there's slightly less cheerleading, there's less of that push. And I wanted to find a way to engineer that back in. And so every time you go to enter a new exercise, the app automatically shows you your last workout for that exercise. And it'll show you like if you did if we're doing goblet squats. Last week I did 50 pounds for a set of 12 reps. I did 50 pounds for a set of 12 reps. And I did a set of 50 pounds for 10 reps. Got a little tired on the last one. I can see that. And I can make that little micro goal for myself. Well, if I got 2 sets of 12 and a set of 10 last week, it'd be an improvement if I got 3 sets of 12. So I've tried to sneak in that little gentle personal trainer into the app there too.
Cool.
Yeah. And then of course, my clients, they get the video demonstrations, they get the explanation of how the exercise works. If they're still unsure, they have full permission at all time to record themselves doing the exercise and sending it to me via the Band app. And then we can go over it together. We can share some suggestions. I can break down the biomechanics. I can break down the forms, give some new tips. I can help people fix things if they're unsure or uncomfortable. So you get all of the benefits of traditional personal training, but with a lot more in that online program.
Cool. So talk about where you find your clients. Where do you find them?
Yeah, behind the scenes on the business stuff. So the most effective thing for me so far has been just social media contacts. So that's what's been most profitable historically for me. It sometimes feels a little swarmy to just constantly be on social media shouting, look at me, blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying to pull away from that and doing more in-person networking and more partnerships with local healthcare providers. But I will say one of my favorite strategies right now for social media, something that feels really authentic and aligned with my interests, is I'll be in various Facebook groups of communities I belong in, and just I'll do a search for common terms like fat loss, weight loss, diet, nutrition, exercise. And I'll find people in my communities that I already belong to asking these questions that I have answers to. And I'll just, whatever the question is, I'll just cut like a 30-second video and I'll post a little video comment to them. That's been really productive. It's also really helpful because it's just me being out in my communities trying to help people. That feels really good, feels really honest to me. Whereas just shouting at like TikToks and Instagrams to look at me, it just feels, yeah. And that's been really effective. One, it allows some people to see a quick thing of my personality, a quick glimpse into my perspectives around health. And it's helpful for the person asking the question. I think it's also helpful for people eavesdropping in on the conversation in the comment sections. And so that's been one of my strategies. Jonathan Goodman of the Personal Trainer Development Center, he calls that attraction marketing. I've really enjoyed that strategy.
Okay. So you look up what questions and you try to answer those questions in a video format.
Yeah, like in a comment on that post. Okay. Because people come into the community looking for help. I'm in that community, I'm going to help. And then if somebody enjoys it, people are nosy online. I'm sure you probably snoped and snooped around someone's profile before, right? If you have something that people like, they'll click on the profile and they'll find out what you got, and then they might find out that I host a podcast. They might find out about my free Facebook group. They might find out about my coaching, but they'll just get involved. And I love helping people get involved with things that are going to allow them to put their best foot forward.
Cool. Yeah, that's an important thing. Mm-hmm. So talk about the groups you network in. Yeah,
so locally I'm in a few different groups. So starting next month, I'm going to be the president of one of the local BNI chapters. BNI is Business Networking International. It's a massive global organization, but it's got a really structured approach to networking. We have a weekly meeting that we come in. The meetings have exclusivity, so only one person per profession is allowed in the chapter. And everyone that gets accepted in the chapter, depending on the chapter, our chapter has a pretty rigorous vetting process to ensure that we're only partnering with quality professionals and energetic, passionate professionals, people that are above and beyond the standards of their industry. So you can trust the people that are in that room. And we meet in that meeting each week and we talk about the type of people we want to work with, what kind of needs we have in our business. And then outside of that, we go out as advocates in the community on behalf of those partners in the meeting, right? So one of my favorite examples is Lindsay and Jason Berry of Berry Fresh Designs. They do promotional marketing, so business cards, custom signage, clothing, merchandise, just a lot of stuff like that. They do phenomenal work, great quality. If you have a small business and you need promotional materials, I can't recommend Berry Fresh Designs enough. But they were in there last week and they were saying that they're looking for a couple website designs clients to round out the year. And so as I go out in the community and if I hear a business owner saying, man, my website looks a little meh, I need to update it, or I want someone to talk to me about the website stuff, in the back of my head, I know about the Berry Fresh Design, so I can make that connection. Again, just one of the things that I try to do is go out in the community and help, right? How can I help more people and help people more? We talked about that earlier. So that's one. BNI is just a way to connect with passionate professionals and then go advocate for each other's businesses as you go out in the community. The second thing that I'm a part of is the Spokane Biz Club. That's how you and I met.
Spokane Biz Club, Macro Labs.
Yeah. That one is going through some changes right now, but it's a very casual meeting. They host a meeting each week. It's casual networking. There's no real rules, no real structure, but it is a great group of people that has maintained a really casual environment. It's on Friday afternoon when you feel like you should be working but don't have the energy to work. You just get to go hang out with some other people that care about business, which is great. Mm-hmm. That's a great one. I try to monitor a few other rotational ones. Desiree Blooming has an amazing brunch bunch that is every other Friday. She meets and supports various local restaurants. And we'll have a group of somewhere between 10 and 30 people that come in. It's a nice bump for the restaurant. And you get to meet other people in the community. There's a brand new one put on by Deanna Harrison, the first Tuesday of the month, like at a local coffee shop. Just a little casual get together. There's a lot. I could probably go on another list of stuff. But getting involved in the community is something that I really wanted to push this year. So I'm really pushing that and getting involved with a few different groups. And it's been really nice. One, it's a nice bounce back from the pandemic and all the isolations. I think that's an event that is going to have a scarring effect for a few years. And a lot of people have felt disconnected since then, right? I know I'm not immune to that. I definitely felt disconnected after the pandemic and after the isolations. And that was my focus this year, was going back into the community, meeting people, being connected, sharing enjoyment, sharing excitement with people. And that's what I've been pushing hard on this year.
Yeah, people don't want to shake hands anymore.
Yeah.
You notice that? It's kind of weird. I kind of like try to force touch now.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It's just it's a strange thing that just take note of it.
Yeah, I will. I tend to have a loud personality when I meet up with people, and I
don't think you have a problem with it. I think it's just other people. Like, they're apprehensive about a handshake.
Yeah, what I was saying was because I don't have a problem with it, I might come in a little bit strong on the handshake offer and not notice hesitancy just because of my excitement to be involved and to be present with people. Mm-hmm. I will have to keep an eye on that because I definitely don't want to invade people's comfort zones. Mm-hmm. But
what used to be
I'm also not shy.
gesture of
that is
being polite is now, it's like you are impolite if you even consider touching me.
Yeah, and that is true. I have noticed. I go to Unity Spiritual Center on Sundays, and there are a couple of people in that congregation that I'm much slower to extend a hand to. Not for my hesitation, but just knowing you can see in their body language they're still getting back out into the community. Or there was a little spike a couple months ago, especially at that community. We had a couple congregants that had gotten another round of COVID and gotten sick, so there's a couple more people have been hesitant, which I think is fair. I know that's depending controversial opinion maybe, but if someone's uncomfortable, I'm going to try to respect them. In that environment, I've seen a couple things, but in the networking thing, I haven't noticed it as much, but I think networking has that implication of business done with handshakes, right? So I think that's a different space.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is a different space. It's something, just an observation of human behavior.
Yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, human behavior has changed in the last couple of years. And I think that's going to be some scarring that we hold on to for a few more years. I do think that's one of the things that has helped a little bit with the health coaching is people are a little bit more health conscious. They were definitely health conscious before the pandemic, but seeing how much immunity was important, not just fighting heart disease, not just the big things, preventing cancer and that stuff, but the everyday, just trying to do the little things to prevent illness. I think that came into our consciousness. I think, like we mentioned, that disconnect. One of the really nice things about the hybrid support system that I built is there's a client community, right? With personal training, it's usually one-on-one, and we still have the one-on-one red light calls, but there's a lot more community focus, and people are getting that connection they've lost during that pandemic in there as well. Yeah. And then, yeah, there's, it's going to be an interesting time to write about in history, because there have been a lot of pendulum swings in the last 3 years, and who knows where the dust is going to settle.
Yeah, well, you nailed something I think is the bigger pandemic, and that's America's overweight crisis.
Yeah.
And the fact that heart disease is the number one killer in the world.
Yeah. So we have been in an obesity epidemic for the last 30 years. It really started to pop up late 80s, early 90s, which is now 30 years ago. And we have done absolutely nothing, not a damn thing, to slow down the rate of obesity. I mean, if you look at census data, the 2020 census data, and this was partially pre-pandemic when people were getting the quarantine 15, but the obesity rates in America are at about 42.7% right now. In 2010, that was about 37%. And in 2000, it was about 32%. And then I believe 1990 was, I want to say, about 27%. So in the last 30 years, an additional 20% points have become categorically obese. And that's been pretty consistent, 5% every 10 years. Despite the rise in diet lifestyles, despite the rise in CrossFit and Orange Theory Fitness and all of the little pop-up fitness boutique camps, despite the weight loss industry being a $6 billion industry year over year over year, despite sugar intake since the 90s has decreased by like 60% population-wide, no decrease in obesity.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
There's been less sugar.
Yeah, I'll send you a graphic on that one, but it was 1-to-1. As sugar consumption went up, obesity rates went up. But as we vilified sugar, as we scapegoated sugar and blamed that for obesity and diabetics and diabetes and all that stuff, sugar intake's gone down quite a bit. I mean, you don't see as many people slugging down those big gulp 7-Eleven sodas. You don't see as many supersized entrees. We've been very conscious of sugar intake, and it's done nothing for us. On the individual level, it's definitely doing some benefits, because people do have a knack to overconsume sugar, and excess is bad in all ways. But on a societal level, despite our decrease in sugar, obesity rates haven't gone down. And it's not, I always try to tell people, when obesity is almost half the population, and then you got another 30% that are overweight, when almost 80%.
Overweight.
Yeah.
You didn't even bring that up. Like, right. That's just obese that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of people that are overweight.
Mm-hmm. So when about 80% of the population has weight issues, it's not fair or responsible for us to say it's an individual's problem. That's a societal problem. And so one of the big things with Health Rebels, we haven't talked about this, but Rebel, it's a cool word, but it's actually an acronym. But when 80% of the population has a problem, it's not an individual's issue. That's a societal issue. And so we do have to look at the cultural factors that have contributed to this. One of the big drivers is, I have no ill will towards the gentleman, but Bill Gates ruined people's health. He had that mission of putting a PC on every desk. Mm-hmm. And when Windows came out in 85, and now as everybody has sedentary desk jobs and working, and I think every industry has been impacted by computers since. People are more sedentary, right? As Steve Jobs with the iPhone has made so many distractions available at a touch of a thumb in our pocket, people's recreations have become more sedentary, right? When's the last time you saw somebody talk about their company softball team? No. Do you know anyone that's in a bowling league?
No, I don't even think people could get together and function like that.
Yeah, for hobbies, we tend to binge watch Netflix. Mm-hmm. We talk about doing marathon sessions. We talk about the new streaming hit. We don't even have to. You're good, bless you. We don't even have to put out effort to get our own food anymore. Not even talking like hunter-gatherer model versus grocery stores. But we now have grocery delivery, right? We don't even have to go to the store. We don't have to walk up and down the aisle to find our food. We just click a couple buttons and it comes to our doorstep.
Already cooked.
Yeah. You can also do that too. Yeah, right. There's just so many conveniences that hold us back that have been engineering health out of our lifestyles that I want to help people identify and re-engineer back into their days. So one of the big things that I talk about in the holistic wheel that I coach on is very specific that I coach about activity and not exercise. Because activity includes all of the non-exercise physical activity. Things like cleaning, gardening, shopping, dancing, walking around the park, riding a bike with your kids, going on a hike, doing company softball leagues or joining a bowling league. All of these little things that are moving your body but not specifically working out, those are the things that give us the most health. And we engineered it all out of our lifestyle. So I want to bring some awareness to that and put some emphasis with my clients and with the community at large about just trying to figure out how do we get activity. Workouts are great. They're next level to try to go to more specific and hardline goals. But get some activity to check the box. Yeah, that's a big thing. So I mean, culturally, we have an obesogenic society. We have a society and a culture that makes obesity very easy. It creates obesity. I don't think it's fair to scapegoat any particular thing. I think it's a multitude of factors. I think the food production is kind of an issue. Our eating habits is a giant issue. Our sedentary lifestyle, our convenience culture, these all push us towards unhealthy standards. And one of the center of the rebel philosophy, the B in the word rebel, is to break standards. Right now, culturally, we have a lot of standards that make people unhealthy.
And they're just imaginary standards too. Every standard pretty much is, right? And if they're imagined, that means we can reimagine them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's reverting back to some of the old things that we do. Like I talk to clients all the time about, going back to the sugar conversation. I don't think sugar causes obesity, but I do think a lot of people by default eat a little bit too much because it's super convenient, super easy to access. But originally, like ice cream sundaes were an ordeal. You had to do that, and they tended to be a special thing that you did on Sundays. That's why they're called such. And now people have a pint of Ben & Jerry's for dessert every night. It's a little bit excessive, a little bit too big of a serving, way too frequent. I'm okay with you eating ice cream, but have a sundae on Sunday. Make it something special. Make it something enjoyable. Don't dull yourself with overindulgence. Don't dull yourself, take away the enjoyment of the thing, and then rob your health at the same time. Keep it special. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. We do have a disgusting food culture in America where pizza and beer is very repeatable.
Whoa, I'm going to pause you there. We don't poo-poo on pizza.
Okay. Right. Hey, pizza's not a bad, it's got all your great food groups on it.
Potentially, if it's balanced, you might have to get a side salad to really bump those ratios. One of the things in my nutrition coaching is we do talk about, we try to simplify things. There's 3 categories of food. There's 4 if you count treats, but there's 3 categories of food that we try to get, right? There's some type of carbs, some type of protein, and some type of plants. And then we talk about portion sizes for each of those. If you want, you can look up the Health Rebels podcast. I just a couple weeks ago did my entire nutrition system. If you want details, check that out. But we talk about portion sizes to make the balance, right? That way we don't have to track macros, it's built in. We don't have to count calories, it's built in. We don't have to do crazy math, it's simplified. Pizza could be a balanced meal if you deliberately add the right things at the right ratios. Or if you're just focusing on the flavors, maybe you put something on the side to make up what you're missing and then have maybe a little bit less pizza. Yeah. I like making homemade pizza because it allows me to control the ingredients, the quality. It allows me to affordably get the flavors that I want. And then usually it also helps a lot with portion control as well. Mm-hmm. It's a little sacrilegious. Don't tell diehard Italian pizza fans, but I often make like tortilla pizzas in the oven. They're great personalized serving sizes. I personally love thin crust. I like that cracker thin texture. And then being at home, I can play around with the toppings however I want. I can make like a barbecue chicken pizza or like a Hawaiian style, or I sometimes go a little gourmet and try to get like roasted garlic and some Kalamata olives and artichokes and stuff. But yeah, I love pizza, man. Pizza's my favorite.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pizza can be outstanding.
But
food.
that's not typical for what people think of pizza.
Yeah,
people think of the greasy box delivery.
They've exchanged, even at work, the company softball for pizza every quarter instead of a raise.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and that's pretty common. Pizza, if not pizza, a taco bar or something. But either way, we have a disgusting food culture where, that sort of fast food, it's not good for you.
Yeah,
especially eating all the time. And another thing, like your thoughts on it. What is your thought on? You have to be rich to be eating well.
I hate that. This is you just found the axe to grind. There is a lot of misconceptions that healthy food is more expensive. There's this stupid meme that always gets shared around, and it shows like a McDonald's large fry at like $1.99 versus a cup of fresh cut fruit at your grocery store at like $5.99. And people are like, this is the problem with America's food supply.
It's a horrible comparison too.
It's a terrible comparison. I mean, for a financial thing, it makes sense to say that. However, that's not what fruit cost. That's what sliced up convenience cost. You're always going to spend more for convenience. On the other side, if you were to buy a cantaloupe or a watermelon, that's like $2-3, and you're going to get 10 of those cups, right? So the cost, if you buy unprocessed whole food, it's really not that expensive. If you try to buy shortcuts, you're going to spend more for the shortcuts. If you buy like the microwavable rice packets, you're going to get you're going to get like 2 servings of rice for like $5, whereas you could get a 20-pound bag of rice, which is, God, I can't even imagine. That's got to be like 200 servings for like $20, making it like 10 servings for $1, or I did terrible math there. But anyway, like you can, if you buy unprocessed, uncooked, unshortcutted foods, it's pennies on the dollar. Organic food is going to be more expensive than conventional farmed food. We don't have any empirical evidence to say that organic is significantly better, has a better nutritional value. There's some anecdotal evidence where people have switched to organic and they've had better health outcomes. It's not lab tested. It's not super strict science. If you have the budget for organic and you have the flavor preferences for organic, then go ahead. I probably split most of my stuff 50-50 conventional organic, which saves expense there. The big hang up that people often get is when they buy healthy foods, when you go grocery shopping and you try to plan out every meal and you buy that ahead of time on the weekends, you're going to spend, depending on the size of your family, $100, $150, $200, $300, right? That looks expensive. And then when you go out to eat, when you go to the drive-thru, you order off the value menu, you're spending $20. $20 looks a lot cheaper than $300, but the problem is you're spending $300 for the entire week versus $20 for lunch, another $20 at dinner. Now you got to buy the kids stuff, so you're now at $50 for dinner. In one day, if you eat out, you're looking at, $20 for lunch, $50 for the family at dinner. You're at $70 there. If you have breakfast, you're another $10 there. You're now $60, $70 in one day. 4 days later, you're now crushing your grocery bill, and you still got 3 days more food to find. It's whether you take that cost up front or is it death by 100 lashes, right? But if you just want to think logically about it, a company is not going to lose money buying food, paying people to put it together, and then paying to package it and then give it to you at a loss. It's always going to cost more money when you have those extra steps in. If you do those steps yourself, you get to pay yourself that.
Yeah, in more ways than one.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it's costing you more than just money. It's costing you your health. When you're and I've heard that, like that fallacious argument in college too, when I was from people saying, "Oh, people are poor because they can only afford fast food because the dollar menu's cheap." I'm like, have you tried feeding a family of 5 through the McDonald's? You feel raped.
Yeah, no,
Like,
you can get...
It's reward systems. It's how people... It's that every day people wake up, they go, and they stop at the coffee place to go get their over-sugared, over-milk-fatted coffee. They drive to work. And then it's like, okay, it's like, why are they eating at the McDonald's menu if they're poor? It's because they work so hard and they can't afford the time to... Like, bullshit. If they're working so hard, then they got money. So if they're working that hard, they got money.
Yeah, so it's attributed to Einstein. I don't know if it's true or not, but one of my favorite things is the world's divided into 2 types of people. There are people that find solutions to every problem, and there are people that find problems to every solution. And then what often becomes a hang-up is when people find problems to solutions, right? If you want to be healthy, eat healthier food. Well, the problem with that is that's finding a problem with a solution. If you think there's a problem with the cost of food, there's 1,000 ways to trim costs on that, right? Going conventional versus organic, going bulk food section, that trims down the cost, right? We talked about you can get the Uncle Ben's like microwavable rice things. It's got 2 servings for like $3 to $5, or you can buy a 25-pound or a 20-pound bag of rice for $25, and that's going to last you 7, 8, 9 months, depending on your family's meal plan styles. I know there's some families that use that in a month, but for most people, it's going to last a long time. You buy some dry beans, cheap, lasts a long time, tastes amazing. You can get some bulk, shop at whatever place has the cheapest meats. That tends to be the most expensive item on your menu. If you shop at the place with the cheapest meat, you save money there. There are discount grocery outlets like Grocery Outlet or Winco. There's ways to save money. Are you gonna look for solutions, or are you gonna find problems with solutions?
Yeah, some people just want excuses. It's that, at the end of the day, it's that hand-to-mouth habit that people have, whether it's drinking something or putting something in their mouth, and there's no denying it. It's calories in versus calories out. Like I've seen the people in the wild. I've seen the humans in the wild in these third world countries. They don't look like Americans at all. Humans in the wild do not look like Americans.
Which I think goes back to the part where we talked about like the rise of the obesity epidemic. It's not an individual's issue. It is an individual's responsibility. You are responsible for your health, but I'm not going to blame you if you're following the cultural trends. It's a cultural problem, right?
It is a cultural problem.
And we can discuss what those problems are.
It's a first world problem.
Yeah,
sure.
right. No, and we can definitely discuss what those are. And as an individual, you can put up those safety nets. I think my clients do that. I've got something called the Rebel filter, which spells out Rebel. It starts off reject extremes, energize yourself, break standards, excite yourself, and love yourself actively. But I use that to help clients kind of figure out what are those healthy choices, but it also puts a shield against the unhealthy choices that are inundating us all the time. Like the first part, reject extremes. Like you said, if you go to like the Hazda people, the nomadic people that they study all the time, they're not going out there. They're not trying to push their body to the limit when they're out gathering stuff. They're not doing the most insane nutrition. They're not doing these extreme deprivations. They're not doing extreme stuff, but they're pretty healthy, right? And I think that's a really useful thing. Breaking standards goes back to the cultural convenience culture, the over access to conveniences, the over access to indulgences, the over access to like you said, the hand to mouth habits. I really like energize yourself. That's something that I let my clients use as a litmus test. I think I know what healthy habits are. The reality is I just know what healthy habits are for myself. And generally speaking, my clients using the Rebel filter with energize yourself, if there's a recommendation that I give them that makes them feel worse, that takes away energy, they get to tell me that's not healthy for them. For their biology, for their health history, it didn't work for them. And then it also gives them permission to favor the things that make them feel good, that make them feel more energetic, that make them feel at their best. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there, but it is just trying to put a shield up against some of the cultural and societal trends that push us to being unhealthy in this first world problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me think about the gut biome. I think people are just so afraid of having an upset stomach in some ways.
Yeah. So yes, gut biome and upset stomach is a fun conversation. So remember, part of the Rebel filter is energized through healthy habits. This also includes your food intake. 90% of the time when you eat food, you should feel better after it. Those meals where you feel tired or get in a food coma, those probably weren't the best foods for you. Tend to be the greasier foods or just the overindulgent, ate way too much. There is one exception that I can think of when it comes to nutrition, and it's around the gut biome. Again, thinking on a societal and a cultural level, we have a lot of trends and a lot of environmental factors that have wrecked and devastated people's gut health. We're getting a lot more awareness to the benefits of gut health and the absolutely bonkers amount of ways that it impacts your health and it impacts your day to day. But we have been brutal. We have decimated gut health. We have done things that are absolutely vile. We've essentially dropped nuclear weapons into our gut for years with processed food, with unhealthy lifestyles, with sedentary habits. There's a ton of things that negatively impact your gut health. And it leads to an interesting conversation. Mike, I'm curious, if I were to ask you how many digestive systems the body has, how many would you say?
At least 2 or 3.
Okay.
I'm guessing the mouth because there's saliva that breaks down, and then
so that's part of. So I'm going to call that part of your biological digestive system. I tell my clients that there's 3 digestive systems that humans use. We're crazy that way. We're a wild animal. But the first one is the one you learned in biology class, right? It's what happens when you eat food. You chew food in your mouth, you swallow it, it gets broken down by acid in the stomach, goes through the intestines, things get pulled out, and then you poop it out, right? That's what people usually think of the digestive system. That's going to be your biological digestive system. That's what you're born with. The second one that we're talking about here, and we'll come back to it, but I'm just going to gloss over it. It's the microbiome, the gut health. The microbiome is a collection of microorganisms that live within your intestines that help break down the foods that your biological digestive system doesn't. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's allowed us to be scavengers in the wild. It's why we can be omnivores, where most animals have to pick a pretty narrow nutritional thing. Like you see, like I think like koala or pandas only eat bamboo, or like there's a lot of species that'll have just a few food sources, and we are like raccoons. We can eat anything. Mm-hmm. Some people overhearing this is going to be mad and like, I can't eat 75 different things. We'll talk about that. But biologically, there's a lot that we don't actually break down to allow us to be scavengers and omnivores. We have this symbiotic relationship with microorganisms in our gut. The third digestive system, just to get all 3 out of the way, is the external digestive system. This is how we prepare foods, how we cook foods, if we choose to ferment foods, if we do anything to preserve foods. This is stuff that breaks down the food outside the body before we get to it. Great anthropological theories and hypotheses out there that cooking is what drove society. If you do comparative physiology with other primates, like gorillas spend like 13, 14 hours a day just eating and pooping, right? Their digestive system doesn't extract everything, so they just have to eat a lot and poop a lot. We could never build society if we spent 14 hours eating and pooping, right? But what allows us to have such a large brain, what allows us to have productivity in our day, is that we take some of that digestive process and we do it outside the body. We cook our food, we break it down before it gets to us. It's semi-digested before it ever hits our biological digestion system. But anyway, backtracking 7 conversations. I told you I got an ADD brain. I will go down tangents. The symbiotic relationship with food. There are foods that the biological digestive system does not break down. The biological digestive system is really good with proteins, fats, and simple sugars. A lot of the things that cause people food intolerances are going to be some of the thicker sugars and more complex carbohydrates. But we can get a symbiotic relationship with things that break that down on our behalf. And then when they're done with that, they release short chain fatty acids, B vitamin complexes, a lot of stuff that we use for nutrients. The problem with diet culture that we have is it's abusive to the gut health. If you have, like, the thing that always comes up is when people go on keto diets and then they get off keto diet and they have some pasta, their stomach hurts. And that they think that's validation that pasta's bad. But the reality is, pasta is just not something we break down with our biological digestive system. It's our symbiotic digestive system, the gut health. And if there's something in our gut that lives off complex grains and you don't feed that for 2-3 months, it dies. And then what happens, because you live in the world we live in, someone's going to offer you some grains. Someone's going to offer you some pasta, some pizza, some birthday cake. You're going to get exposed to that food again, and you no longer have the tools to break it down because you abused the symbiotic relationship. You killed them. You murdered them. They're dead. They cannot help you. That food just sits and rots in your gut. And it's heavy. It hurts. It causes indigestion. That process can be rehabilitated. You can repopulate the gut health, reestablish that symbiotic relationship, and become tolerant to foods that historically haven't fit with you. It's a difficult thing to parse out whether you have food allergies or food intolerances, so you should do this with a really well-informed dietitian. But if you're recovering, if you're in that gut rehabilitation phase, you might have a couple meals that are physically uncomfortable while you repopulate those growths. And that's the exception to energize through healthy habits. Really, rehabilitation is the exception. That also comes in with activity. We can go back to my knee. Physical therapy sucked. It hurt. It's not something I would ever want someone to do. I'm not one of those no pain, no gain guys. But when you're working with scar tissue, you kind of don't have any other option. If you're dealing with rehabilitating your gut, you kind of don't have any other option. I don't know how much time we got. Would you like to talk a little bit about the gut rehab?
Yeah, we still got 50 minutes.
Okay, sweet. So the microbiome, if you're interested in it, I talk to people, there's a lot of hoopla about the middle stage. You've heard probiotics, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know what probiotics are?
From what I understand is they help promote the gut biome.
Yeah.
And they're good to take with antibiotics, and antibiotics is another thing that's been ruining America's gut health too.
Okay, yeah. So talking specifically about the supplements of probiotics, there are a class of supplements called probiotics. Probiotics are bacteria. They're little bacteria. They're biotics. They're bacteria. They're viruses. They're fungi. They are these little microorganisms that are beneficial for the body. They are pro-body, pro-health. They're probiotics. That's where we get that name. And we can supplement that. We can also find that in different food sources. We can find those in our environment. And we can talk a little bit about that because we talked about cultural issues. We can talk about environment and the gut health if we get there. But that's what people get all the hoopla about. That's what people think about gut health is probiotics. For good reasons. Probiotics will do a lot for you. But that's 1/3 of the gut health. There's 3 stages. Before probiotics, there's a phase called prebiotics. Prebiotics are the food sources for your probiotics. If you put probiotics in a foodless environment, they don't stay, right? They go away. Some of them will stick around a little bit, but not very many. Without prebiotics, probiotics can be a waste. Mm-hmm. Prebiotics tend to be a lot more of the fibers and the starches, especially the resistant starches. That's where that symbiotic relationship comes. And this is where it can be a little painful because you kind of need prebiotics in presence to support the probiotics. But if you don't have probiotics, prebiotics hurt you as a person. But the first stage is prebiotics. There's food sources for your probiotics, second stage, and your probiotics eat stage 1 prebiotics, and they end up releasing metabolic products called postbiotics. Postbiotics, I'm going to call that stage 3. So you have prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. Postbiotics are a lot of metabolites. So there are things like short chain fatty acids, vitamin B, several B vitamins. They can give us more access to iron and riboflavin. There's a lot of postbiotics. What the postbiotics also do, other than being nutrients for you, they are also things that can strengthen the physical environment for the probiotics, which conveniently for you means intestinal health. It's better colon health. It's better gut health. Your postbiotics give you nutrients, but they also create a healthy living space for the for the probiotics for stage 2. So if you are in a situation where you want to dabble with some gut rehabilitation, it's not enough to just throw out probiotics. It's not enough to take supplements or to drink the kombuchas or to drink or to eat the probiotic yogurts. Probiotics by themselves have benefits, but it's a third of the story. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the environment is healthy by getting some postbiotics. Now, there are some new postbiotic supplements coming to market, and in market, they're small, they're kind of tough to find, but if you do a search for postbiotics, you can find them. You can also find postbiotics in a lot of fermented stuff, particularly the brines. Again, because postbiotics are the metabolic byproducts of probiotics eating prebiotics, think of it like release.
Like how yeast creates alcohol.
Exactly. So alcohol is, in that environment, a postbiotic. For your health environment, it's not a postbiotic, it's a poison. And it tends to kill a lot of the probiotics we have. It's good for fermenting yeast. It's not good for everything else in your gut. But that is the right way to conceptualize it. Fermented yeast goes into beer, eats the grains, eats the sugar, poops out alcohol, right? So you have sugar and grains, your prebiotics in beer, your fermenting yeast, your probiotics in beer, and your alcohol, your postbiotics in beer. In the human body, if you think about other fermented foods like sauerkrauts or kimchi, things that come with a brine, those brines contain those postbiotics. Much like beer contains that environment's postbiotics, the brines, they're going to be good. Things like vinegar and acetic acid, they can break down what are called biofilms, which impede postbiotics in your gut. So a lot of people have this kind of like, if you don't brush your teeth for a while, you get that little film on your tooth. Some people's intestinal gut linings are lined with that type of material that just it chokes out the gut environment and blocks probiotics from taking stage. It blocks stage 2 from taking hold. And so a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of acetic acids, use that as a salad dressing. That can help kind of break down those biofilms and create an environment. If you take some of the brines, you can put in things that support the environment. And then as we introduce, I tend to work this in reverse. And then we introduce an overabundance of probiotics, whether that's through supplementation, fermented drinks, fermented foods, or more deliberate interactions with your environment. When you introduce those in a healthy postbiotic environment, the probiotics can survive a little bit more. They can take up root. And then when the probiotics, when stage 2 is present, it should be able to help you digest the stage 1 prebiotics. So the best example of this I can give is I used to be lactose intolerant, and some people would debate I still am. And there's definitely a quantity. I notice if I go crazy on cheese, which I don't really do anymore, then some people hate to be around me. Sorry. But originally it caused a lot of stomach issues, caused a lot of aches, and I love ice cream and I love pizza, and I was not going to live without it.
Nope.
And so I decided that I was going to try to figure this out. And my understanding was that the issue was lactose, right? Lactose is a pretty large sugar. I believe it's a combination of galactose and sucrose. Maybe it's a combination of a couple of sugars, I believe. But our body, the biological digestive system, doesn't really break that down. It needs either lactase, which is an enzyme, or it needs lactobacillus bacteria, which is dependent on whether you have that bacteria in your gut or not. Lactobacillus bacteria can be found a lot in yogurts, and it can be found a lot in kombuchas. It's probably the most common probiotic. It's the dime a dozen probiotic. But what I chose to do was I was going to eat foods that were rich in lactobacillus bacteria, and then I was going to eat some lactose. Lactobacillus eats lactose, so if I have lactose and I have the bacteria in my stomach, I don't have to worry about my stomach dealing with the lactose. The bacteria does it. And it allowed me to eat cheese and dairy products when I want, as much as I want, as long as I don't get crazy with it. And I do know that, so we talked a little bit personal side. I'm part owner of the Green Bay Packers, and I love to go out to Wisconsin and watch a game. We call it a business expense. It's not a business expense. But if you go to Wisconsin, you're going to eat cheese curds. And on a 2 or 3 day trip to Wisconsin, I will eat cheese curds 2-3 times a day.
And they squeak in your mouth too.
They can, yeah, depending on if they're fried or not. Yeah. But they're great. I love them. Here in Spokane, we have Wisconsin Burger. They have pretty good cheese curds as well.
I'll have to check that out. I didn't even realize I had one here.
Oh yeah. But anyway, like I'll go in and Wisconsin is beer, cheese, and sausage. That's what you're going to get. And I enjoy that escape into beer, cheese, and sausage land. But I will preface that trip, and I will try to have some extra kombucha while I'm out there, just exposing myself to more lactobacillus bacteria to assist in that symbiotic digestive system. And I go through those Green Bay trips with almost no issue, very rarely. I think maybe on the last day of my last trip, it was a little bit too much, but I had a lot of cheese. Going from stomach aches with cheese to rehabilitating the gut and fostering it with the right bacteria to being able to go on a cheese trip is a pretty good change of tale.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, we talked about, I think a lot of restrictive diets kill people's symbiotic digestive system. And because the world we live in, you're going to get re-exposed to that food stuff. If you avoid things, you then become unable to handle it. You need exposure. You need to allow the things in your gut to survive so that you can get future exposures.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Well, it was very informative. I mean, for one, you brought up a very good point of the external digestive system.
Yeah.
And you also brought up the fact, I didn't realize postbiotics, but it goes back to the same thing, which is people are not, and I'm guilty, people are not inoculating their gut biome to all the food sources that are available in their environment. And because of that, they get an upset stomach. And then they have these preconceived notions that I am allergic to this, or this is something, when it could just be psychosomatic. And I think about, too, going back in time, like, this was a big deal back. This is how, like, Dr. Kellogg got big, was because people had such
what a kook.
indigestion. Yeah, it is. People had such indigestion at the time, and so he claimed his, but that was a thing back in the days because people had a lot of indigestion because they weren't really cooking food. And when you eat uncooked food,
especially grains, like grains, you do have to cook those. You do have to break those down. There's a reason why we've made flours instead of just chawing on like corn husks. That external digestion definitely helps there in some regards, but it's not the only digestive system that we have access to. And I think we can help alleviate and remedy a lot of gut issues when we have that awareness of the 3 digestive systems we have access to, ensuring that we're taking care of all 3. And then like we talked about with the gut health, that one gets broken down into 3 stages as well. We can talk about the biological digestive system. That's got a lot of stages that people do a lot of poor food hygiene habits or eating hygiene habits that disrupt our ability to digest food. God, I know way too much about digestion. Goodness.
You would think that you would have to, because at the end of the day, it makes me think about Mike Mincer. He was this guy.
Okay.
If you've
that's a deep cut. Yeah. Are you talking about the bodybuilder?
Yeah, the bodybuilder.
Okay.
I know, it's kind of it is a deep cut there. Yeah, because I was turned on to him because I got this one guy.
Marcel?
No, his name is Danny Woodbury.
Oh, okay.
He's this pacemaker bodybuilder. Either way, he turned me on to him. And I'm listening to Mike Mincer, and every bodybuilder I talk to is very deep into the physiology of the body, like the mitochondrials and mitofibrils and all that stuff that is beyond my level of comprehension. I just like eat well and run and work out every once in a while, and I've just been lucky. But I'm a big proponent of stretching. I'm huge. I stretch like minimum an hour a day.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Which, again, is one of those things, going back to energized by healthy habits, stretching feels good, especially, like, I made the mistake when I was young of trying to get more flexible by stretching. And it's one of those, like, ruthless, you just push and push and push, and your muscles are screaming at you, and it feels like 5 gallons of shit shoved into a 4-gallon bag. It just sucks. Stretching since then with reject extremes and stuff, it's just you go to where you can kind of sort of feel it, and then you hang out and relax, and that hang out and relax feels amazing. We need more hang out and relax in life.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been very blessed because most of my adult life I was in the Marines, so I have heard it all. Well, for one, I'm the firm believer in dynamic stretching. Dynamic warm-up is critical for injury prevention because, your tendons are like a rubber band. You got to let them stretch. And if you pull it while it's cold, it'll break. You got to let it warm. I've seen all sorts of different fitness plans by whoever was the one guy who won the government contract at the time. That's basically what it boiled down to. Whoever could, and it really wasn't until. Okay, no, let me digress. I've had so many fitness classes. I would say the ones that stood out to me was when I got this, that changed the way I run too. Because now I run on the balls of I run on my tiptoes, and I used to run like flat-footed and everything. But we got this class from the LA Wizards, who were the soccer team. They came down to Camp Pendleton one day and gave us a whole class on just how to run. I'm like, oh, I've been an idiot this whole time. I've been running wrong the whole time. Then I had another some other pro athletes came, and then they're like, no, stretching, stretch, and they're like, before we even work out, we're gonna spend an hour stretching, and it just feels good, and that's why I like it. And when I take the time to make sure I stretch out everything I possibly can.
Well, there's something. One of the cornerstones to my approaches to fitness and activity and exercise is that we want to do these things not to push the body, not to challenge the body, not to go to war against the body, but we do these things to support and nurture the body. If we can support the body into being healthy, it will, pretty much anything you want will start to manifest from that base, right? If you have a healthy body, you can lose weight easier. If you have a healthy body that's functioning right, you can perform better. If we can support and nurture the body to promote more health, we can get what we want easier with more enjoyment. With stretching, it lends itself very easily to support and nurture. Like we mentioned, like my definition of stretching now versus when I was a kid, it's not about pushing that limit and trying to stretch as far as you can. It's about feeling the muscle, relaxing and hanging out. With strength training and with aerobics, they lend themselves very naturally to pushing the body, to bumping up your limits, to grinding, to hustling, to trying to go to war. And this is where people mess up. If we can take that with the approach of supporting and nurturing the body through strength, through aerobics, instead of challenging, then we get better health. Then we get better outcomes. Which is, again, probably one of the parts of the reasons why I'm anti-fitness, where everyone wants you to maximize and optimize and push and give 110% effort and no pain, no gain. I'm this hippie sitting in the corner like, nah, man, just support yourself. Nurture your body.
It really is a lot about that. I mean, you got to think about how depressed are people. I think a lot of it is mental health. A lot of it is reward pathways of that dopamine hit, and how are they training their body to get that dopamine. Like if I don't go out, if I don't get a workout in, I'm not going to feel good. And I love that high. And I would rather chase that high, but they chase that high through, I did something good. Let's go to McDonald's. I deserve it.
Yeah.
And then they do that often.
Yeah, scrolling on socials. There's so many. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I also think of like how people can, like social media, that's a double-edged sword too, because you could, mindless scrolling is freaking, some people try to call it micro-learning, but at the same time, it's not that good. But I also like where technology has gone with podcasts, if I'm able to listen to a podcast while I'm working out. Which some people say is like cheating. So, because the time flies and I'm thinking about the conversation that people are having as opposed to, I'm running right now.
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on kind of intents, right? Like if I used to be a strength coach at WSU. I was an assistant strength coach there. If I had an athlete that came in and listened to podcasts during the workouts, like I would be upset about that because the workouts in that world,
in that particular thing, you focusing on them,
in that workout, in that environment, if you're like listening to a podcast, then you're split focused and you're not getting everything you can out of the workout. But again, with the perspective of nurturing and supporting, most of the stuff you do for exercise is cognitively fairly automatic. It's not super challenging on the mind. If you get a podcast going at that same time, I'm totally okay with that in that environment. But it is, yeah. So in that regards to some people saying it's cheating or it's not as good quality, it might not be as good quality, but do you need 110% if you're just there to support and nurture yourself? Yeah.
Have you noticed, I think, people are just afraid of physical pain.
Yeah. I think for good reason. I don't think pain has benefits outside of the rehab settings.
I guess like exhaustion, like when you push yourself.
I think we run into the issue where people use the word pain incorrectly. I think there's discomforts. And we can see this a lot. I use this, like, I always do a callback to, like, when I was at WSU, the football team would be in there at 5 a.m. They'd be yelling, they'd be shouting, they'd be screaming, they'd be drenched in buckets of sweat. They're throwing around 600-pound weights. They're doing cleans with 600. They're squatting 700. They're benching 300, 400. Just massive things. Buckets of sweat. Grueling, murderous workouts. There's grunting, there's heaving, and then they walk out of that room with a smile on their face. You give that to Nana Myers isn't going to get off the couch for the next 3 weeks, right? Not a smile in the face. And there's the difference. Nana Myers would be doing that workout and be in pain. Because the football players have that personal prerogative, that personal preference for that, and the conditioning for it.
The conditioning. That's what's important too.
It's not pain for them. Pain is the closest description we've used in the past. It's the simple explanation, but it's not accurate. It's discomfort for that population, and it's pain for another. Pain is not going to get you results. Pain is going to hold you back from results. It's going to break the body down when we want to support and nurture it. What we've seen in the past, if you watch Pumping Iron, if you watch some of these high-level athletes, their faces are under a tremendous amount of effort and exertion, and it looks to an outsider to be pain. But if you're smiling afterwards, that's not pain, right? So, for lack of better terms, a lot of people that are habituated to making themselves uncomfortable, for lack of better terms, will tell people that, hey, a little bit of pain's okay. It's not pain. It is maybe a high-level discomfort, but if you're coming out of it smiling, it's not pain. I was laying in the fetal position at the MGM Grand in pain. There were no smiles there, let me tell you. There was no benefit to the leg shattering. Like, that's pain. Pain not good. Pain bad. Discomfort can be invigorating. Discomfort can be stimulating. Discomfort can be a great thing. We do have to be more honest about that. What people that are experienced, habituated, and prefer to experience as discomforts looks like pain, and we have done the disservice of saying that we feel pain in those situations when we don't.
Have you ever noticed by being physically fit around people that aren't physically fit, they start to self-fat shame? Like, they'll make remarks like, I need to start working out, or blah, blah, blah. Or,
a little bit, for sure.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that Einstein quote, right? Some people look for problems. Some people look for solutions. There's definitely some. I think, this could be, I don't know if this is a Brene Brown or a Mel Robbins thing, but people should all over themselves all day. One of the tough things that I try to do at first is when people tell me things that they want or goals that they have, I try to do like an honesty or reality check right off the bat, and just, there's a lot of things that we say we want that we don't. There's a lot of things that we would like to have if it was free, but the trade-off, or at least the perceived trade-off, just isn't there for you. Like a confession, I am a fitness professional. I don't have six-pack abs. I don't want them. I would like them if there was a genie that like, hey man, I'll give you 6-pack abs for free. I would take them. I've had 6-pack abs. They just don't matter.
The road to Christ-like abs is hard to sustain and get.
Yeah.
It involves suffering. There's suffering in the road to Christ-like abs.
Yeah, there's I mean, the nutrition has to be dialed in to a higher level. I'm deliberate about my nutrition. I'm not neurotic or obsessive about it. And the amount of physical effort in workouts is also super high, which, I mean, I'm very frequent. I'm very consistent with workouts, but I don't walk out in buckets anymore like I did in my early 20s. I don't try to challenge myself, partially physical limitation, partially personal limitations.
And you don't need to.
I don't need to.
Because you've gotten your body to the metabolism, to that
I've
state
supported my
can,
body consistently. Yeah. I would.
Whatever.
So I want to challenge that real quick. But I want to finish with the abs thing.
Okay,
I've also had abs, and it does nothing for you. Half the time you don't even really see them. You see some of the guys like from Magic Mike. Channing Tatum had an interview where he said like all the shortlist scenes, we had to do those in 3 days because that was all that we could maintain that level of definition for. Because there's some dehydration involved.
Yeah, just like bodybuilders. They swell,
very short.
Then they gotta trim, and then yes, it's a specific window of time to get those.
Yeah.
That sort of ab, and then there's like all the other tanning and all that stuff just to make it show.
Well, I mean, when I had abs, it was a lot. It was a lot of physical effort. Super uptight, like obsessive about my nutrition, and it did nothing for me. It turns out I have to wear a shirt at work, so nobody even knew. This is the worst part about having 6-pack abs. I went to the grocery store and they still charge me full price for my food. Like, what the hell? I didn't get like a discount or anything. Does nothing. So that level of effort versus the return, I just don't care. I don't want abs. If they were free, I would take them. I'll take them. But I want to encourage people to be honest about what they want versus what they would like. And it's one of those things you do have to want to be healthy. And I work with my clients when we come in. Nobody wants to lose weight. Everybody says they do. Losing weight means nothing. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Really, honestly, like if you say lose 10 pounds, what is that? Like, if I close my eyes and think about it, it's like, I think of like a 10-pound dumbbell and just like dropping it on the sidewalk. Like that, I don't care about that. Nobody wants to lose weight. A lot of people say they want to lose weight. The reality is, the spin on this is, there is something that you want that you believe losing weight will get you to. If we just focus on the losing weight instead of what that other thing is, you don't care. You're not going to do the things. You're going to suffer and find out that it's not worth it to chase a goal you don't care. What I often do with clients during the consultation is find out, what is that other step? What do you want that you think weight loss will give you? The example I often give is my old client, Amanda. She lived half a block away from like a city park. And she had a 3-year-old son and a 10-year-old son. And every time they asked, hey, can we go to the park? She said no. No reason, no good reason for it. She was just too tired. She was too tired to take her kid to the park. And she felt like she was holding back her kids because the park should be part of your childhood. She felt like she wasn't being able to be a present mother. She felt like she was holding back her kids. She wanted to show up better for her kids. And so with that, we stopped trying to lose weight and we said, hey, what are the habits that are going to give you the energy to play with 3? What is the energy to help you play with your kids, right? That's stuff that she wants. She turns out she loves exercise now because it gives her the energy to play with her kids. It allows her to show up her best. The weight loss happened. She lost like 25 pounds in 12 weeks. But it doesn't matter. Nobody wants to lose weight. They think weight loss will give them something. If we focus on that, then it's meaningful. Then it's worth doing the little things that we ask. It's worth planning your nutrition. It's worth doing some activity each day. It's worth going to bed on time. Those little habits become worthwhile when you actually go after something you want. People will sometimes see me, be like, oh my God, that guy looks great. I should look great. I want to look great. I should work out. You're going to do that for 3 days and realize you don't want to. Be honest about what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you nailed it. I think people have these addictions and they have the wrong dopamine path. And if they said, what is it I want? Like, I want to look healthier because when I look healthier and I'm not fat, I don't smell as bad and I'm not as winded and I'm more approachable and people find me more trustworthy. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing people don't like.
There's so many benefits. Many benefits outside of just your waistline.
Mm-hmm. Like, just as a professional level. Like, if you look at these higher level corporate jobs, they aren't hiring obese people. Other
than like Elon Musk, I don't think there's a Fortune 500 CEO that doesn't talk about their morning workout. Mm-hmm. And there's reasons for that. It's not there. There is a psychology aspect to showing up and looking the part. That's definitely beneficial at that level. But there's a lot of mental benefits to exercise. It increases your productivity. It increases clarity. It increases your executive function.
And your energy.
It increases your energy. It increases your memory recall, your ability to learn new skills. Yeah. There's a tremendous amount of things. And for some people, saying, hey, I want to show up as a better worker. I want to show up as a better leader. So I'm going to work out in the mornings to give myself that biochemical bath that allows me to show up the best. That's worth it. For like my client that just wanted to be a better mom or show up more present in her motherhood, that's worth it. I've had clients that wanted to be more intimate and more engaged with their partners, their significant others. That's worth it. I don't believe anybody when they tell me they want to lose weight. And I try to figure out what that is and what actually matters. That can be a process that can be tough to do on your own. It does help to have a facilitator, someone that talks you through and talks and asks questions you didn't know to ask yourself, and to go deeper and to really probe about yourself. One of the big challenges I think people have, and stress management's part of the coaching, and I think a big source of stress is that people don't have enough moments of reflection, and it's a skill we've kind of lost. And so having a conversation with someone that can be a little bit more reflective, a little more introspective, can help give you clarity. And clarity can give you motivation and encouragement to do things that are worthwhile. I just read Brene Brown's Dare to Lead book, and there's a great chapter in it just said, clear is kind, unclear is unkind.
That's so true.
Yeah.
When you're unclear, you're robbing people of the truth.
You're robbing people, but you're also robbing yourself. If you're not clear on what you actually want and why you want it, then you have this oscillation where you feel like you should be doing healthy habits. But then every time you do, it doesn't feel worth it because it's not what you want. It's not really what you want. You're going after the wrong thing. You're doing the right thing. You're going after the wrong thing. And then you just can't convince yourself long term to do that. And then you're upset at yourself because you're not doing the right thing. And so you try to do it again and realize that you just don't care about it. So you stop doing it. And then you start to run into this cycle of like, I'm just a lazy piece of shit. And maybe I'm just a fat slob that has no hope. But it's always going after the wrong thing, right? And I will say, if someone's still listening to this episode and they want some assistance going through that process, you can get a free consult. Schedule that on my website, healthrebels.us/contact. And you can schedule, we'll do a 60-minute talk, and we'll be able to talk more about, hey, what do you want to accomplish? Well, why do you want to accomplish that? What is that going to do for you? Why is this meaningful? And then figure out what does matter. What do you want so that you can do the things that allow you to show up your best?
Psychotherapy. That's what it seems a lot of it is. Because a lot of it is an addiction problem. And it's creeped up on people over the years. And they don't think that they're fat either. Have you noticed that like the standard of what is overweight has changed?
Yeah, well, quick disclaimer. My lawyer will be mad at me if I don't say this. Not psychotherapist. Please do not sign up for a psychotherapy session.
We've been drinking this whole podcast. You can't hold us liable for anything we've been saying.
No, but anyway, changing standards. This is a whole nother bag of worms that if we had 3 hours, we could really get into. I just watched a great little docu series episode. PBS Nova. I'm a PBS kid. But they had an episode called The Truth About Fat. And a great podcast. I think it was like a 2 or 3 part series, but the John Berardi show, or the Dr. John Berardi show, unfortunately he lost steam and didn't have many episodes, but he had one talking about what is ideal body image and looked at the history of body image and how that changes. Our definition of fat's really, really wonky. It's not biologically driven. It's not health driven. It's mostly beauty standards. Recently, in the 1800s, you can see like Victorian, like, I don't know the right word, the soft word, the correct word, but plump women were more beautiful than they are now. Part of that was trying to, there's some racist origins about our body beauty standards, trying to delineate white people from black people. And so that's where like the skinny model look started to come from, was to kind of create more verification of superiority of genes, which is terrible. It's our standards around beauty and what acceptable fat is so asinine, so backwards, so dirty, so backwards. And there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out in the medical community. There's a new movement called Health at Every Size. I don't know if you've seen that. But it's fighting the stigma in the medical community. There's a disheartening amount of, especially women go in with symptoms that get ignored or overlooked. They're either considered hysterical or overly problematic, or it all gets just relegated and dismissed as, oh, you're overweight, lose weight, your problem goes away. And there's a lot of serious diseases and cancers that are getting overlooked because patient symptoms are being dismissed based on their body image. So there's movement to destigmatize body image with the Health at Every Size.
For being fat, because if you're going to be misdiagnosed because of your body size, that's another health concern.
That is
it's a sidebar conversation.
That is, I wouldn't say that's the individual's fault. Again, could be the individual's responsibility. That is a medical community issue.
And you're subjecting yourself to human bias. Is essentially what you're doing.
I mean, you can prevent that by managing your weight potentially, but there have been studies that have also showed that an individual's BMI or body index or whatever, whether they're underweight, normal weight, overweight, not always conducive or predictive of their health state. There are a lot of people that are underweight, they're incredibly unhealthy. There are a lot of sedentary people that are normal weighted that are incredibly unhealthy, that have clogged arteries that you wouldn't anticipate looking at them. And there are a lot of people that are overweight, even in the obese category, that when you do blood works, when you do vital measurements, their health is fine. What they found with various studies in the Health at Every Size movement is that the greatest factor to someone's health is their daily habits. Are they participating in healthy habits, regardless of what the weight outcomes are? If they're being healthy, they end up being healthy. Weird how that works. I think we can marry the two schools of thought, the old BMI stuff with the new health at every size movement, to understand that generally speaking in populations, when BMIs go up, health outcomes go down, right? There are a lot of health risks that come with excess weight that go down as you lose that weight, if you lose that weight in a healthy, sustainable way. But on an individual, the master trump key is your daily habits, right? You don't have to fit into a specific box on what is fat and not fat if you have those consistent daily habits of activity, good sleep, and reasonable nutrition, right? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to try to be a bodybuilder. Just kind of act like you like yourself. If I could give one piece of advice, just act like you like yourself. That should help out with a lot of decision making. But yeah, individual daily habits, greatest predictor of someone's health state. Weight, generally speaking, all else being equal, and whenever you hear that expression, all else is never equal, but all else being equal, losing excess fat should make somebody healthy if all else is equal and they already have those healthy habits. Priority, daily habits, what's in your control.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, backtracking about our shifting what is fat and what isn't fat, we were never right in that conversation anyway. And if it shifts, I'm not sure that it's shifting the wrong way. I don't think we're making people less healthy. I'm not a giant fan of super body acceptance, of just kind of giving people
an
like
excuse to be just
not an excuse, but an out.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with giving people an out to lose that responsibility for your daily habits. But I do like the body acceptance where we acknowledge that your image is not what we thought it was. It doesn't relate to what we thought it related to. If you're taking care of yourself, I don't care what you look like. But I do want you to take care of yourself. And not in the like, oh, I take a bubble bath once a week and then I go out on the town and have mimosas with the girlfriends. That's not taking care of yourself. That's fun, but take care of yourself each day.
Yeah, I think of it as an asset class because your health will directly affect your income, because if you're not healthy, you can't work.
Yeah. There's that. There's behavioral things in there, because if you're healthier, you're more productive, you're more energetic, you have more mental clarity, less stress. And there's sociological factors in there too. People that fit beauty standards get an unfair amount of opportunities just for not being someone else's definition of fat. So there's three factors to that. There's the physical factor. If you're healthy, you can show up healthy. There's the behavioral psychology. If you take care of yourself, you have the mental functioning to elevate and make more money. And then there's the social function. If you are taking care of yourself, people see that you take care of yourself, they give you an unfair amount of subconscious and unconscious opportunities.
Yes. You nailed it. It's a vicious cycle. So to go back to everything you said, we live in a society where mediocrity and conflict avoidance, it's the standard, it's rewarded. If you want to just let yourself go and be a depressed, overweight person, you can do that. And nobody should judge you for that, which is bullshit. People should be judging other, and that's where I think I know I might sound like an asshole, but it's because I'm a Marine, but
yeah.
Fat shaming freaking works.
For a very small percentage of people.
Time. Yeah, but it does work.
No, and this is one of the tough things when we talk about anecdotal evidence. Again, if you look at the fitness industry works. You've seen before and after photos. That works, right? But the stats say it doesn't, right? The stats say 85 to 95% of people that lose weight regain that weight, right? With the traditional approaches, with the hammer and kill yourself. We see some people have lost 100 and more pounds or 100 pounds or more and have kept it off. But they're the outliers. They're the 3%ers, right? They're far and few in between. Most people it's failing for, right? And so I preface that. I am an anti-fitness guy. If you have that prerogative, that mentality, that mindset that goes well with what's out there, if you want someone to yell at you, someone to kick your ass, someone to chew you out, I'm not the right guy for you, because, and there's lots of great stories of people being fat shamed into good changes. I believe Patrick Bet Davis has a story. His dad used to call his friend Gordo, Spanish for fatso. And that guy made a change. Also shares a story that his dad gave the nickname to someone else. That dude made the opposite change, got more fat, got more self-conscious, leaned into those unhealthy habits. It's just, one of the biggest challenges in the fitness industry is saying that something worked for 5 people and giving it to 100. Ignoring the people that it didn't work for, ignoring the 95 people and saying that they just didn't try hard enough. It's their fault. They didn't want it enough. The reality is we didn't present an option that was approachable for the vast majority, and we're putting far too much spotlight on survivorship bias. So I can't say fat shaming doesn't work, but I will say if that's your primary strategy, you're going to cause 20 times more harm than good.
That's why I'm not a fitness coach. Because I wouldn't be in the industry long.
It's one of those tough things. And I think a lot of fitness professionals struggle with this is there is lots of advice that's personally relevant that's not professionally relevant. I have a background as an athlete. There are little things that I'll do in my workout that are great for me that if I gave to a client, just be dumb, be asinine, be just the most ridiculous thing I could come up with. And it's difficult to find where that line is. What is personally relevant and what's professionally relevant? Yeah. But anyway.
Well, you brought up a point. You called yourself an athlete. That's how I identify too. And I don't think people identify like that. I think that once they're like, oh, I'm an adult now. I'm too old to play games and do this shit. But you should be. Us humans are designed to be chasing game to the point where the game is exhausted.
Yeah. So there is some stuff there. So I said that I'm an athlete. I have those athletic hang-ups. But I also have to understand that athletes probably, and when we get generalized, it's probably 10 to 15% of the population at most. Most people are just people, and that's okay. You're right. Evolutionarily, we are designed to move. We're designed to have activity. We're designed to run down and survive. And a lot of people don't give themselves that opportunity. Athlete, I think, is a mindset and a mentality that goes above basic survival needs and tries to get into like performance or optimizing or best scenarios that I don't think people need unless they want it. And that's one of the big things is giving people space. And we're doing a really great job of giving people space to be them, to define their standards, to define their wants, to be honest about their wants so that they can pursue it wholeheartedly and honestly. I think historically we used to try to tell everyone what box they had to fit into, and that caused a lot of conflicts because people would do things they didn't care about and then they'd stop doing it, and then we'd label them a failure and a piece of shit and all the things that come with it. And I don't think we're in that world anymore. I think it's fine for you and I to have athletic histories and to have that athletic chip on our shoulders. We don't have to put that on other people, though.
Yeah, no, that's true. I also think about how I watch those old time like shows of like high school or just like gyms in the 20s.
Yeah.
When those guys are just ripped.
Yeah, you also got to remember those guys all farmed, right? We talked about this briefly. Windows changed everything, right? People have really sedentary works. Our economy has shifted. We went from an agrarian culture in the 1800s to a mercantile culture in the early 1900s to service-based and tech-based in the 21st century. Our economy's changed. The way people spend their day has radically changed. You were talking about evolutionary needs. We have to run down game, right? That's not necessarily an athletic pursuit. That's just a physical activity. We don't... in culture, we used to, with people's works and occupations, they would get that rundown game while they were tending to their ranch, while they were tending to their farms, while they were working in construction and all that. A lot of times, we don't have that anymore for the vast majority of Americans. We don't have that in the day-to-day life. That's where exercise and activity comes in. That's where that comes in, and it can be a slippery slope when we falsely equate that into the athletic pursuits when it doesn't need to be. We have that physical need to move to be healthy. We used to get that in our day-to-day life. We engineered that out. We just need to find ways to put that back in just to check the box in a way that makes sense for our own personal identities and personal preferences. And desires, right? Be honest about what you want versus what you would like to have. Figure out what's important and what kind of activity accomplishes what's important.
Yeah. I'm just reminded when I was...
It's a challenge, man. I'm a hippie. It's a hippie and a Marine. We're having... it's good.
I think about it more... I think, too, about the jobs, because you mentioned that. And I don't have a problem. I kind of like the idea. Well, I remember I worked this milling job. Literally, all I did was just move milled wood out of a machine onto a thing. 8 hours a day. My left arm got swollen. I'm like, and I think about that. That's all people used to do is hard labor all day, and my body was seeing it too. Like I was getting really decent shape. I was putting on size. I wasn't even trying.
Yeah.
And I think about that too, like the job. I think people have this mindset that I need to go to college. I need to get a degree. I need to do some job that gets some sort of money to pay off all the school debt and everything. And they get stuck in this slave mindset and they develop this body. And I think about some prison experiments I remember reading about when I was a kid, how they used to get prisoners fat, and the fatter prisoners were more docile, but people threw a fit because they're like, you're spending taxpayer money on getting prisoners fat. But it's the same concept in our society. You know, you get people fatter, they become more docile, they're less active, they're less...
Well, that's a big perk. Like, as the anti-fitness solution for weight loss and wellness, I don't try to get people beach body ready. I don't try to get people jacked or shredded. We focus on getting more energy and more self-confidence. Kind of like that study. When you're out of shape, when you're sedentary, your body starts to shut down. Anthropology, we have this theory called evolutionary winter. In the winters, there's not a lot of food sources. There's not a lot of resources. There's not a lot of socializing. There's not mating. You're just trying to hunker down and survive. Life kind of sucks in the winter if you're a caveman.
Just living off the fat.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, but there's this hypothesis that depression is a natural response to sedentary habits. to downregulate the functions of the body so that you're not using more resources than you have available. It shuts the body down in a slow state of survival, slow decay, slow death. Just try to survive to get to the springtime. And then the springtime, when people go back out hunting, foraging, they're going out, they're socializing, they're mating, they're getting those interactions, they're getting that movement. During evolutionary spring, this is when people's moods are happy. This is not survival anymore. This is thriving, not surviving. It's thriving. Now, that's in relation to the seasons. In modern lifestyle, we're not really seasonal dependent, right? We have grocery stores in the winter. We still have food. We still have bars. We can still
fresh bananas all year round.
Yeah, we have access to stuff. We're not tied to this changing of the seasons, but we are still tied to the activities of those seasons, and those activities determine our mental health, right? So if we're sitting in our cave, not moving, not socializing, not mating, not moving, not being active, if we're sitting in evolutionary winter, then we have the depression, then we have the sadness, then we have the lethargy. But if we're sitting in evolutionary spring and we're being active, we're getting good foods, we're in this state of thrive, then things are good. And luckily, we're in a state where, because of the way we've engineered life, we could be in springtime all year long, but most people choose to be in winter.
That's true. And I feel that everything you're saying, it boils down to either people want to change that dopamine path in their mind to feel good through fitness, or sometimes they lose the weight, but they don't pursue reinforcing that neural pathway. But Steve, that's been 2 hours, so
golly, we talked about a lot of things, man.
So, where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to find me on the socials, I do have an active Facebook and Instagram account. You can find me here on YouTube as well. You can either find me personally, Stephen Hicks, or Health Rebels. Health Rebels US is the handle on all socials. If you don't want to do social media, and I don't blame you, you can find me on my blog at healthrebels.us/blog. You can also find out about coaching on that website as well. And I host the Health Rebels podcast, new episode every Wednesday morning. You can find that anywhere you stream podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, any of those.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, check out all the links in the comment, or be sure to comment. Check out all the links in the video description below, and you know what to do. Bye.